Hey, what's up, folks? It's the Methodical AAA, and yeah, I know. I tried to record myself with my video camera on my phone that I use for my little short documentary film, but... Whoa! Shit! Yeah, that didn't really work out too well. So, I'm just recording my voice. Now, if you saw the title of this video, obviously I'm going to be talking about Black Panther, which is a film that I wanted to talk about ever since it came out 2 years ago. Yeah, I guess when it comes to this stuff, I take a long time to process my thoughts when it comes to these films. Like Doctor Strange, it took me 3 years to even get around to talking about that. Anyway, before I start going in depth with Black Panther, let me just talk about how I feel about Black Panther. I love this film. I do.
Really? For real?
No fucking way.
You lie!
I know. Of course you love this film. You're a black guy and you love Black Panther. It's not that difficult to assume. But yeah, like that's just generally how I feel. Black Panther affects me on a personal level. You know what I mean? And that's why I feel I need to go in depth as to why Black Panther affects me on a personal level. First off, I just want to talk about random shit that I like, criticisms that I have with the film, and criticisms that I hear other people have with the film. The random shit that I liked. Black Panther apparently fights Boko Haram in Nigeria. Also, I liked humor surrounding black culture in America.
You got all this security in here watching me ever since I walked in.
And what are these?
The real question is, what are those?
You got a mixtape coming out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Actually, there is one. Yeah, I'll send you the SoundCloud link if you like.
I made it rain.
Make it rain, I make it rain on them hoes.
Hurt me no more. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me.
The prince will now have the strength of the Black Panther stripped away.
What is this?
Now, for criticisms of the film that I have, Uncle James. Yeah, you could have had like a 10-second silent flashback with little Eric Killmonger chilling with Zuri in Oakland to establish that the two actually knew each other so that it hurts more when Killmonger kills Zuri. Next, the Wakandan Civil War. Okay, so these are your countrymen, but everyone just seems fine with killing everybody else. And it seems to be resolved rather easily off screen. Yeah. My love. I mean, it wasn't established in the final cut of the film that well, but that's the thing. In the deleted scene, oh my god, W'Kabi and Okoye killed it. I mean, they established their relationship as well as W'Kabi's motivations perfectly.
Claw stole from us. He murdered my mother and father. 30 years there's been no justice, and T'Challa swore to bring him back. Not taken to the UN, not taken to the CIA, but bring him here to us.
And speaking of love stories, T'Challa and Nakia. At first glance, it seems undeveloped, and apparently they're exes. I mean, that doesn't really do much for me. But upon further understanding, it's rather subtle and subdued, which does fit T'Challa's character. But it actually works since he shares, you know, that life-changing shit that he found out with Nakia, out of all people, not even his sister. So in the end, it kind of comes across as simple but sweet. Hey, just making a quick addition. I can't believe I forgot about this when I was writing this thing, but my probable biggest criticism with this film is, why would T'Challa choose to heal Everett Ross but not James Rhodes? This was your boy in Civil War. What are you doing? You just gonna leave him? Hell, even in Civil War, he doesn't even bother helping out James Rhodes, but he'll help out Bucky Barnes. I guess that's kind of what Wakanda does. So Wakanda will leave countless black people to deal with racism, slavery, potential paralyzation, and death. But God forbid some white guy gets injured in front of us. Oh nah, we gotta save him. There ain't no other explanation. We gotta do it. Hey boss, like what about Claw? He's getting away. Man, forget all that. We gotta help this guy right here. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Back to whatever it was I was saying. Now, criticisms that I hear other people have with Black Panther. Black Panther has terrible CGI. I mean, yeah, that's fair. Of course, I don't think I'm necessarily the person to care all that much about bad special effects as long as the story's good. I mean, I watch Power Rangers. I mean, yeah, you want to talk about bad special effects, but that's neither here nor there. Of course, no one wants to talk about how Infinity War and Ragnarok have their dodgy CGI moments, but whatever. Black Panther is apparently racist because it barely has white people and it celebrates black culture. I mean, obviously this argument is irrational, but I could also say that Thor is racist since it celebrates Nordic culture and barely has black people. That's how stupid this argument sounds. Black Panther is boring or feels just like any other MCU film. Well, see, this is up to personal preference, but if the narrative isn't your thing, hey, that's you. I think the thing that really made me interested in the story was how it feels more like a story about a nation and its ruler. Also, and I know people are gonna roll their eyes about this part, but it's actually important, a large cast of black people and the celebration of African culture. Now, someone's gonna say, what about Blade? That had a black character in the forefront, so what's the problem? Blade was the protagonist, but Blade as a character doesn't develop at all. See, the most we get is in Blade 2, when he develops an attraction to a hot vampire chick, and I can't say I blame him, but to me, Blade is more like the heroic version of the Joker from The Dark Knight. He's less of a person and more of a force of nature. They exist for two things: kill vampires and bring Gotham to its knees. Now see, Black Panther is a large-scale film with multiple black characters with different personalities and motivations, and for me, it's nice to see that. Now to the African culture part. It means something to me personally to see African culture represented in this fashion, since my dad is African and I see a lot of this on the regular. So to see it in a big budget superhero film, even if it doesn't feel like a superhero film, but to see it in a big budget superhero film, it means a lot. Now, it's possible that people didn't gravitate towards this because they either don't find African culture appealing or they just don't care about it. I'm not saying that as a criticism or an attack, it's just objectively speaking, some people just don't care about that, and that's fair. Let me flip it around. I personally don't care that much about Norse mythology, and I don't hold that against Thor. Even though this part in Thor: The Dark World was beautiful, I wouldn't even lie. That's interesting because for me, I feel like Black Panther is most like Thor, considering it's about a prince who learns responsibility and also learns some hard truths about his kingdom and his family, fights a relative for the throne, and eventually becomes king. And then Thanos fucks both of them over, which is probably my biggest problem with Thor. We never got to know Asgard like that, while in Black Panther, we spend most of our time chilling in Wakanda. In Thor stories, we either spend more time on Earth or Sakaar. Like, yo, I feel like we learned more about Sakaar than we actually did about the people of Asgard, but you know, at this point, it's kind of too late. Meanwhile, Wakanda feels like an actual civilization with different people, different beliefs and motives, etc. Which finally brings me to the point of this video. Wakandans are some assholes, and the midpoint of this film is where the entire country gets called out on its bullshit. Although not that surprising, since before watching this film, I heard everybody was gushing about Killmonger and how he had a legitimate grievance against Wakanda and how his arguments actually made sense, and I was like, oh, okay, so he's probably gonna talk about how Wakanda didn't help out during slavery, apartheid, Jim Crow, among other things. And as the film began, I was like, oh, okay, so Killmonger must be Njobu's son, and they locked up Njobu. Nope. I ain't expect them to kill Njobu and just ditch them and cover it up, but damn, bro, okay.
I saw that going differently in my mind.
But let me just talk about this part. The best part about it is that T'Challa calls his dad out on it, which is another reason why I say this is better than Thor. Odin never gets called out on his bullshit. Granted, in the actual narrative, there was no time to do it, but even that vision at the end, Thor doesn't even seem remotely annoyed that his pops left him to fight one of the most powerful villains in the MCU, as well as the fact that she's his sister, conveniently forgot to mention her for over 1,500 years. Oh yeah, and the fact that Odin himself was a mass murderer who created Asgard by force. Yeah, all that gets swept under the rug. That's not the case in Black Panther. Now, why is this such a big deal for me personally? Back in high school, I bought a disc called Black Panther. I guess it was kind of like an animated motion comic that aired on BET, brought to us by Reginald Hudlin, and it featured Jimon Hounsou as the voice of T'Challa. It also has a banging theme song. See, it's not bad, but let's see if you could guess my problem with it.
The fact that the French, the English, the Belgians, or any number of Christian or Islamic invaders were never able to defeat them in battle, well, it's unprecedented. The Wakandans have a warrior spirit that makes the Vietnamese look like, well, the French. They've also maintained a technological superiority that defies explanation. The Black Panther is the ruler of Wakanda. It's a spiritually based warrior cult. Sort of like being Pope, President, and the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff all at once. Captain America was young and inexperienced. He knew little about Wakanda, and even less about the Black Panther. Cap was on a mission to stop a Nazi squad, intent on stealing Wakanda's vibranium deposits. What Cap didn't know is that the Wakandans were under the invasion days ago.
I must teach you a lesson.
Captain America lost.
Bull.
If it makes you feel any better, the Panther also beat the Fantastic Four in...
Where is T'Challa, the son of our late King T'Chaka?
He's the people's favorite. I knew it! Who else could fight that well but royalty?
I'm going to take over the computer matrix manually.
But T'Challa, that's never been tested before. He's rewriting the security code while flying through a war zone? I know. He's the Black Panther.
You see, they keep telling us and showing us how awesome Wakanda is, how awesome Black Panther is, and how awesome T'Challa is, but that's about it. There's no actual depth. The characters aren't bad, they're just not terribly interesting. They're like untouchable paragons, kind of like Captain Marvel.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Bad guys want to defeat the hero, but the hero is more or less a step ahead of them at every turn, and eventually the bad guy loses. The end.
You were smart and funny and a huge pain in the ass. And you were the most powerful person I knew.
He's rewriting the security code while flying through a war zone? I know. He's the Black Panther.
What's the difference?
I don't know.
Is that like a personal attack?
I mean, sure, there's a little bit of vulnerability in the animation, but nope, back to business, and that part is never expanded upon. Maybe there was a little bit more depth in the actual comic Reginald Hudlin wrote, but not in here. You see, to me, this reeks of what's called positive discrimination. Again, like Captain Marvel, where one is so afraid of making either black people or women look bad that they deprive them of flaws or moments of vulnerability. They're so desperate to make the characters look good that the characters are always at the top of their game, regardless of who tries to challenge them. And I don't know about you guys, but to me, that is fucking boring. I mean, yo, they got the Juggernaut in here. The goddamn Juggernaut is in this bitch. Do you know how much I wanted to see Black Panther face off against the Juggernaut? But not only does that not happen, but Juggernaut himself, barely an afterthought. And don't even get me started on Storm. I said this whole thing is not bad, but I will say without a shadow of a doubt, this part right here with Storm, nah, that was trash. That was straight garbage, boy. You see, like, the animation tries to make it seem like they're lovers and their love was so powerful, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. You see, I actually thought that Wakanda was gonna get so fucked up to the point where T'Challa was gonna have to call in Storm for help. For me, that would have been interesting to watch, but again, not only does that not happen, she shows up at the very end after the whole plot has been resolved just to share a kiss with T'Challa.
What the hell does this have to do with anything? Tell me what's happening!
Yeah, needless to say, Nakia is better. Back to the point of the video. This, for me, is why the midpoint of the live-action Black Panther film and everything that happens after is so important. Like in the animated version, the first half of Black Panther is a revenge story where Claw is the bad guy. Unlike the comics and the animation, Claw didn't kill T'Chaka, but he still killed Wakandans, which makes him, of course, the bad guy. And in case you're wondering, yeah, Andy Serkis's Claw is so much better than the animated version. The animated version is more stoic and generically evil, while the film's version is genuinely funny. But even the first half of the film is a better revenge story than the animated version. I mean, sure, like the animation, there's no real tension of whether the Wakandans will succeed in bringing down Claw, since Claw is actually weaker in the film than he is in the animation, but still, I'm on board more since I actually like the characters more in the film, because T'Challa is more human and more vulnerable in the first half of the film than he ever was in the entire animation, while still retaining that same stoicism. And like I said, Claw is genuinely funny, therefore a joy to watch. So they capture him, which brings us to the return of Killmonger. Beforehand, we have some idea of who Killmonger is. He's clearly knowledgeable of African history while holding some prejudice towards white people. Of course, there's the scene at the beginning, but at this point, it seems like an isolated incident, and this thing seems important, I guess. Now, we all know what a midpoint of a film is, right? For those who don't, a midpoint is a change in the status quo, a change in our understanding of events in the film, or a character gets new information, the list goes on. It doesn't have to happen smack dab in the middle of the film, but here are some examples.
What the hell are you? I'm Batman.
The new Hydra grew, a beautiful parasite inside S.H.I.E.L.D.
But then we remembered you always had a few spare kids hanging around. So we borrowed one. Say hello, JJ. And the dear lad began to share such secrets with me. Secrets that are mine alone to know. Bruce.
See, that wasn't so hard.
Somebody get this stupid costume off me! Please, don't!
Darth Vader.
Thank you, my master.
Your father killed his own brother to save my life. And the child, we left him.
You see, the Midpoint did exactly what I wanted this awesome, larger-than-life story to do with its characters. Make them human. You see, Njobu saw the plight of African Americans but had to betray and doom many of his own people to death to achieve his goal. T'Chaka, as king, had to prioritize Wakanda and kill his own brother to achieve his goal. Like, yo, my man's killed his own brother. I mean, yeah, sure, it seemed like an accident, but it still happened. And he abandoned his nephew. Sure, it's not quite as bad as creating your entire kingdom on a very bloody lie, but T'Challa reacts exactly as any normal human would, with absolute disgust. Everything we know is now turned on its head. I mean, yeah, sure, T'Chaka might have been a good king, but he wasn't a good man.
I'm sorry about your father. He seemed a good man.
And it's hard for a good man to be king. What kind of king? What kind of man does that?
No man is perfect. Not even your father.
And now we finally get to Killmonger proper. Killmonger calls out Wakanda for living lavish while most black people in the world don't have that luxury. Next, he whoops T'Challa's ass. Remember that shit I was saying about Claw, not really serving much of a threat to the Wakandans? Yeah, forget all that shit. See, this is what a good villain does. Poses a genuine threat to the hero, physically, mentally, and ideologically. After Killmonger becomes king, he goes to the ancestral plane. Now, I've heard some theories that the ancestral plane is an intense hallucination brought on by the heart-shaped herb. If so, then that really says something about Killmonger's psyche. He sees the beautiful scenery outside, and yet he's still stuck in his apartment looking at the spot where his father died. You see, I interpreted this as he's close to completing his mission, but he never actually progressed past this moment. He's made it to Wakanda, but he'll never actually feel at home in Wakanda, not even in his own mind. He's cut off from his history just like every other African American. And in the scenario where the ancestral plane is not a hallucination, it's also telling how regretful Njobu is that his actions corrupted his son into becoming a remorseless killer. See, this is so much far beyond what the animation gave us. It turned these characters who were incapable of doing wrong into flawed human beings, and I love that. Next, Killmonger goes on to make a statement and ask the single best question in the film.
You know where I'm from? When black folks started revolutions, they never had the firepower or the resources to fight their oppressors. Where was Wakanda?
All this time praising Black Panther and Wakanda for being a beautiful showcase of black excellence, who got that way by ignoring the suffering of all other black people around the world. See, the best part about all of this is that it facilitates a change in T'Challa's character. The new information T'Challa received at the midpoint motivates him to challenge the status quo. In the end, T'Challa visits the place where Killmonger grew up and Njobu died, and turns it into the first Wakandan outreach center, and opens up Wakanda to the rest of the world. Of course, if it was up to me, I personally would just open up Wakanda to the rest of Africa, and that's it, because I do not want the US to start a dick measuring contest with North Korea over who has the best vibranium weapons, because you know that that's what's gonna happen. You just know. But see, for me, that is what the midpoint of the film and everything after did for Black Panther, in my opinion. I didn't even talk about M'Baku. Like, M'Baku was great. I didn't think I was going to enjoy his character as much as I did. I didn't even think I was going to like his character, because man-ape, that's racist. exist, but they were able to shed that part of his character and make him an interesting character in his own right. I mean, like, yeah, he's definitely a rival, maybe even an asshole, but that does not mean that he's an enemy. Which is funny because everybody in the film treats the Jabari like they're animals. Their barking doesn't help, but they're actually pretty chill. So I guess the purpose of the midpoint and everything after it was don't be fooled by first impressions. I had to get that out. That's all I had to say. That's all I got. I hope everybody's as safe as possible, and I guess I'll catch you guys later. I'm the Methodical AAA, and peace.
Is that like a personal attack or something?